Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a little tired, even though I've had like 4 servings of ketones today. Just have a lot of stuff going on. Lots of calls. Everyone's going crazy with the reboot and the reboot Excel. So I'm doing Facebook Lives and calls and all that. But I wanted to come on here because we have a lot of new promoters. And we also have a lot of customers who are wanting to earn free product. And the only way that happens is through telling stories. So I know we've done some story training, and so we're just going to kind of revisit that, but we're going to take it to the next level and talk about compliance and telling our stories compliantly. What is absolutely phenomenal about our product is it actually makes a huge impact in people's life, in their health, right? The stories we hear blow us away, and we want to get on the rooftop and scream at what it's doing for people. But here's the thing. We want our company and our product to be around a very, very, very long time. And the only way to do that is to maintain a compliant company. We cannot make medical claims. We cannot talk about medical terms. We cannot say words on Facebook like diabetes, blood pressure, heart, thyroid, arthritis, bronchitis, big toe-itis. We can't talk about any of those medical terms because that would be exactly what would take our product right out from under us. So it's our responsibility as business owners to make sure that we all are still telling our stories, but in a compliant way, and knowing how to teach other people how to do that. You might know how to tell your story, like Wendy Wellington has an amazing story that is completely non-compliant. It is absolutely phenomenally compliant, but she has learned how to tell it in a compliant way. But now what we need to do is teach her how to tell other, which she already is doing this, but teach other people how to tell their story compliantly. And the truth is, you guys, like so many times, many of us want to, like, just to be, completely full disclosure, like I've had my thyroid removed. When I first started, that was like part of my story, because when you don't have a thyroid, you are tired all the time. You have a hard time losing weight. And so I wanted to share that. But the truth is that actually hindered me, because that made my story only accessible and understandable to a very small segment of the population. If I had taken out the whole portion about my thyroid and just talked about being tired and being a person who was having a challenge and losing weight, that's a huge net. That casts a huge net, and I can help more people. Does that make sense? So why are stories so important? It's kind of like this. Like, we can do a few things. We can tell people about the science. We can tell people about the benefits. We can tell people about their different product options. We have 143. We have Keto Cream. We have the Reboot. We have all these awesome products. People don't care. People don't care about the science. You might think they do. Jason Higdon thought they did. Why don't you have a conversation? If you think that science is what's going to help people, if you think that telling people about the science of our product is really going to make an impact on someone's life, go talk to Jason Higdon. Guarantee you no one on this call knows more about a ketone. Ask him how many people he's got to buy ketones by telling them about the science of the product. Okay? That is not how you help people. It's not by telling them all the differences in our products and our flavors and how we have fruity stuff and we have chocolate stuff. That's not what impacts lives. Telling them, okay, who's looking for better energy and better sleep and better focus? That doesn't impact lives. What impacts lives is sharing our stories. Truly sharing your stories. When you get out of here and you get into here and you start speaking from your heart, that's what impacts lives. I was on a call earlier. It was a champ call, which I hope to see many of you on this in 2019. But it was a Circle of Champions call. And I wrote this down because I thought it was really awesome. Mitch Newman was on there, and he said, focus on residual impact and residual income will come. Does that make sense to you guys? Focus on making a residual impact in the world, and that residual income will arrive, okay? Instead of focusing on selling ketones, focus on changing lives and making an impact in the world, and you will get the result that you want. And it's all done through telling your story. So I always tell people, I'm like, I think it was Maya Angelou who said, people won't remember what you say, but they will always remember the way you made them feel. The way you made them feel. So Jason Higdon can get on a stage and tell people about the molecular breakdown of ketones and what it does for you on a cellular level and how it extends the telomeres on your DNA strand all day long. He can tell you that stuff all day long. You get me up there and I talk about what it's done for our family, how I see my husband out in the backyard throwing a football with my son that he couldn't do before, how my son, when he was 12 years old, had a tear come down his cheek after the doctor told him that he had childhood obesity. And he looked at me and he said, Mama, I don't want to be obese anymore. And what we did to change his life, that impacts lives. That's what makes people move and take action, is because I was able to use my story, use our family story to create a feeling in someone else that moved them to action. Words don't move people to action. Feelings move people to action. Are you guys smelling what I stepped in? I've been on calls all day. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth tonight, so I'm just going to apologize to y'all right now. John's loving it. Look, John Lynn, he can tell when I'm in the zone, and he starts laughing because I can always tell. It cracks me up. I always know when I'm in the zone. I just got to look at John, and he's like, it's coming. Hold on. Buckle up, everybody. Here it comes. So, you know, we have some new people on here, and they maybe have never, been taught how to tell their story. And so that's because I can tell you 1,000%. If you want to build a business inside of Prove It, learn how to tell stories. Learn how to tell your own. Learn how to share other people's stories. It is the magic sauce in our business. It is what makes us different than all the other network marketing companies online. It is what separates us from all the other exogenous ketone companies in the world. It is not just our formula. It is not just our natural fermentation process. It is our stories. It is us, right? We are Prove It. We have Prove It in us, right? So it is through these stories. So how do we tell these stories? And how do we make people feel our stories? Because remember, it's not just words that we're trying to get through. It's the feelings. It's the emotions. How do we do that? I wish I had paid a lot more attention in my English and my writing classes in high school and college. This would be a lot easier, right? So what are emotions that are going to move people? Laughter, hope, sadness, desperation, joy. If you think of any others, type them in the chat. Type them in the chat box. Because hope is one that I think of often. But anything that someone can identify with you. So if I am a person that I'm just scrolling through Facebook and all of a sudden I hear Mindy's story talking about how, and then I don't even know if this is part of Mindy's story, I'm making this up, but how Mindy was sad, how she had lost her joy, how she was in the middle of her family, surrounded by her family, but she felt alone. And that now she feels a part of her life. She feels like she's participating in her family. She has found her joy. She has found that motivator in her life that's connecting her with the people in her life that she loves. That is a feeling. Those are not just words. Because if I'm scrolling through and I read that and I in any possible way feel that as well, I am going to lock on to Mindy and I'm going to want what she wants. And Mindy just attracted me to her, not because I was looking for Mindy, because I was really looking for what? I'm looking for myself. It was another little nugget that Mitch told us. We talk all the time about how we're looking for the person that's looking for us. No, we are looking for the person who's looking for them. They're looking for themselves, the best, the most optimal version of themselves. And they see hope of finding that in us. All we are is inspiration for somebody else to find the better version of themselves. Does that make sense, you guys? That's our job. I was watching a network marketing tape the other day. Tape? Is that really a thing? It wasn't really a tape. That is so 1987. Jason and I were watching some recording. He's always buying me all this crap to watch. And the guy, he was just cracking myself up here. Now I forgot what I was going to say. But he was, we were watching this guy, and he's talking and he said, people ask him, like, well, what do you do for a living? Because like Angie Doe, unmute yourself real quick. I'm gonna put you on the spot. What do you say to someone if they ask you, what do you do for a living?
I change people's lives.
That's awesome. That's an excellent. We did not practice this. We did not rehearse this at all. But that is an awesome answer. So the guy that was on the video that we were watching, when people ask him, what do you do for a living? He's like, I am a professional encourager. Like, that's what he's like, that's what I do all day long, is just encourage people and motivate them and inspire them. He is a professional inspirer, and so that is what we do. If you think that you're in the business of selling ketones, you're not. You're not in the business of selling ketones. Ketones are just our platform, but that's not what we do. What we do is tell stories that inspire other people to find the better version of themselves. So keep that in mind. Have that part of your mindfulness whenever you make a post, whenever you start a conversation with someone, when you're wearing your keto swag and someone says, what is that? Remember, we're not in the business of selling ketones. We are in the business of inspiring others to find a better version of themselves. If you make that flip, you make that switch, this entire business model will be so much easier for you, and you will also attract people who want to do the same thing. So how do we get to that? Some of you have heard these questions before. You're going to hear them again. All right? Because I'm always tweaking things. So number one, how do we tell our story? What are questions we can ask ourselves to figure out how to tell our story? But even more importantly than that, y'all, what are the questions we ask customers and brand new promoters to help them tell their story? You do not have a customer who doesn't want free ketones. They may tell you that they don't want to share it with other people because they are afraid, but they want free ketones. So my advice is to always be asking them these questions, because sooner or later you can pop them a little post, write it for them, and say, just post this and see what happens, okay? But if you don't know their answers, you can't do that. If they tell you they don't want free ketones, know that they're lying to you, okay? There's nobody who doesn't want free ketones, all right? So number one, the first question, what did a typical day before Keto Max look like? What did a typical day? Now, what most people will say in the beginning before they're coached is they'll say, I was tired. I felt foggy-headed. I was hungry all the time. That's great. That's a generality. Okay, that's a general benefit. Give me an example. That's what you need to say. Give me an example. What do you mean you were hungry all the time? Okay, so like I was on a call earlier with Lauren Lynn, who just had a baby. So now she's at home all the time. So she's like, I'm bored. So what does she do when she's bored? She's like, I was bored. So I just would go to the kitchen all the time and want to just grab food because I'm just bored. Like I just feel like I need to like put food in my face because I don't know what else to do. That is a specific example. Do you think that people are going to feel the general statement, or are they going to feel the specific example? Don't answer all at once. They're going to feel the example, right? They're going to feel that example. If you say, when you talk about being tired, they're like, oh, I was tired all the time. Well, what did that look like? Give me an example of what that looked like. For me personally, it was every afternoon in my back office. I would go to the back office. I would put a pillow down, a blanket, turn on the fan in my back office, and lay down and take at least a 20-minute nap that most of the time turned into an hour and a half. That was my daily routine every single day. So do you think that people felt me talking about me being tired? Or do you think when I gave them an example of what that looked like, that they really felt it? Like if I can paint that picture in their mind, it literally takes it from one side of their brain to their other. Mindy, she's our psychotherapist at the group. Mindy, can you attest, like, when we give an example, when we paint a picture, does that go to another area of the brain for people to identify with?
Yes, it does. A place where there really isn't language associated with it. It's a feeling place.
I so love having Mindy on this team. Can I just say, like, I have always needed a psychotherapist in my life.
Great.
Funny thing is she's actually been in my life since I was like 13 or 17. I don't know, something like that. But she's been in there. So awesome. Thank you. So that's real science. Like, there's science to that about painting the picture of what your life looked like. So we talk about that. Number 2, what does a typical day look like now? Again, not a generality. We're not going to talk about, oh, I have all this energy, I feel great, or, oh, I sleep so amazing now. No, that is a generality. Give me a specific example. What does it look like? If you have energy now, what do you have energy to do now that you didn't before? Right? Like, for example, Jason did not go out in the backyard and play with our son. Now he goes in the backyard and he wears my kid out. He outlasts the 14-year-old teenager throwing the football. He's not just throwing the football. He's actually like running and throwing the football. I honestly have not seen him like that since I've known him. So when I give you that specific and you can see the visualization, it makes a bigger difference and it makes you feel something. So use those stories. If fat loss is always when people are always like, oh, here's my before and better picture. Here's my before and better picture. And that's awesome. Those are great. We always get lots of comments. We get lots of stuff. But people, like, I can tell you right now, like, my friends are so tired. I say they're tired of seeing my before and better pictures, yet they keep sending me pictures they find on their phone of me before. It's like their hobby to send me sloth videos and fat pictures of myself. It's a thing. So, but here's something. So I remember as I started to lose weight, and I posted a picture. I took a picture like this, and it was me crossing my legs. For a woman who's been overweight for a very long time, it's very hard to cross your legs. We cross our ankles all the time because we can't cross our legs. You do not feel like it takes a piece of your femininity away. I don't know why it is like that, but it is. Angie, would you agree? Like, when you're a woman and you can't sit ladylike with your legs crossed because your legs are too big, like, there's something that does to you. So when I posted about that, like, I had a huge outpouring of people talk about that. It wasn't a picture of me before and after. It was just me talking about being able to cross my legs and what a huge impact that had. Or one of my favorite Facebook Live videos I actually did in a bathroom at not going to the bathroom, don't get crazy. I didn't do anything crazy like that. But it was very early on, and it was in an airport. And I apologized to my cousin who's a paraplegic in a wheelchair. And I apologized to her because I'm like, full disclosure, I use the handicap bathroom all the time. The reason I did is because I was a large lady and the other stalls made me feel claustrophobic and I couldn't turn around. So the first time that I got to go in a regular stall and not feel claustrophobic, that was a big deal to me. So there are other women who are in that same, and men who are in that same situation, that when I told that story and I painted that picture, that made a bigger impact on them than just seeing my before and after. Because it was a shared experience. That's what I'm trying to get to. Writing that down. Shared experience is when you interlock with someone. When they feel you is when you have that shared experience. You guys get what I'm saying? So if someone can feel they've been through that and they've been in that situation and they can relate to that experience, all of a sudden you have made a bond with that person. They feel connected to you and they're going to want what you want. The more you can do that, the better. Okay, I see Poppy and Rick totally on opposite sides of the couch having a conversation right now. Are y'all laughing at me? Look at them. They're in the same room. I can totally tell. Are you on the same couch? You're so cute. So cute. Okay. So here's what you do. Okay, here's the third question that you want to ask. And this is a really important question for people who are brand new and maybe they don't have this big story yet. And by the way, a big story doesn't have to be huge. It can be tiny, okay? You don't have to have 70 pounds of fat loss. As a matter of fact, your story of climbing the mountain is way more impactful to people than when you're at the top of the mountain looking down and say, hey, it's a great view up here, come on up. Your story of climbing the mountain is going to attract more people to you. So just keep that in mind. If you are on your process, on your journey of your story, talk about being on that journey, all right? So the third question is, what are you most excited about for the future? Talk about what are you most excited about. For me now, at this point, I am most excited about two things. Number one, that I see a future, a long-term future for my husband and I. I see us as grandparents enjoying our grandchildren. I see us as being able to take them to Disney World and my husband have them on his shoulders and us going all day long with no naps, feeling amazing, and also being able to pay for everyone to go, okay? So that's number one. Number two is I am excited that I have the opportunity to help other people and share the same experience with others, right? Because it's about taking the gift that we've been given and giving it to somebody else. So when you talk about how you're excited about something for the future, that's going to attract people to you because it shows that you have vision. People want to follow other people. We live in an entire society of sheep. 90% of the people you know are sheep. They are looking for a shepherd to lead them. If you don't tell them what you're excited about, if you don't give them a vision and show them where you're going, they're not going to follow. So make sure that your vision is very clear, it's very concise, and you can paint a picture with it, okay? Like Dustin Schaefer, when I first met him, he told me what his vision was. It was to help 1 million people. That was huge. That was a huge goal, but it was impactful to me. I still remember it to this day, hearing him say that he wanted to help 1 million people. He didn't talk on and on and on about what it had done for him, what it had done for his family, where they were, where they are, but he talked about what he wanted to do. And I was like, that is a mission that I can attach myself to. That is a goal that I want to be a part of. Does that make sense to you guys? So what are you most excited about? The reason I love this question as well is because we have a lot of people who are brand new. Maybe they just got started. They're on their 5-day or their 10-day, or they just came right in with an experience path and they want to join as a prover and share the experience. They have something to be excited about, right? They can talk about what their life is like right now. If they have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning right now, they are hitting the snooze alarm 10 times right now, and they are yelling at their kids in the morning to get them out the door because they didn't get up early enough to organize their day. They can talk about that and talk about how they're excited that this is all about to change, that this is all going to change. This is, they have found the answer. They have found that holy grail that's going to get them to where they want to go. That excitement is part of their story. Do you guys get that? Okay, awesome. So when you have these stories and you ask these questions, you typically end up with lots of words, lots of parts to this story. But we don't want to post 10 paragraphs on Facebook, you guys. Nobody's going to read that, not even your mother. So what you want to do for yourself and your customers and your new promoters is take little segments of that story, little examples. When we talked about the benefit and then the example of that benefit, tell that one example. 2 days later, tell the next example. 2 days later, tell the other example. 2 days later, do a Facebook Live about one of the examples. Tell it bit by bit, because that's going to cast the biggest net, and that's going to attract the most number of people. Because if I sat and talked about my fat loss, is that going to attract the skinny chick that lives next door that's exhausted all the time? No, it's not. Because she's like, well, I guess that's for fat loss. It ain't for me. Do you know how many people, especially with me, because I've had a huge fat loss story, think that this product is not for them because they think it's a weight loss product? And it's my own fault, because when I first started, that's all I talked about was fat loss. That was my own fault. That's on me. I didn't talk about how I'm sleeping through the night now when I didn't before. I didn't talk about the naps being gone. I didn't talk about how I could go to work and before I was overwhelmed and bills were stacking up because I didn't even have the mental focus to go through them. And now I go to work and I'm cutting through work like a hot knife through butter. Like, I didn't talk about that. I was like, look at me, look at my jeans, look at my clothes fitting differently. So I immediately pushed away a lot of people who I could have attracted had I told my full story bit by bit by bit. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, awesome. So now we're going to talk about compliance. Okay, hold on. I'm seeing questions I didn't see over here. Which way would you say is best to share? Live to give emotions. So both, Brent, there's no one way is better than the other as far as making a post and doing a live. I would say if you have part of your story, this is what's great about social media. Your friends might see this post and not see this post. They might see this post and not this one. So if you write about a post, that's great. But you know what? Do a Facebook Live where Amanda interviews you about one of those emotional stories. I did that with Jason, and that was huge. I asked him, well, actually, one of the best lives that Jason and I ever did is we interviewed each other about each other. It was like, what's the best change he has seen in me? What does he love best about Keto Max and what it's done for me? And I did the same thing for him, because the truth is, I could give a crap about what Keto Max has done for me. I would give it all away in a heartbeat to have what it's done for him. Because I have my husband back, I have a father to my children, and a grandfather to my future grandchildren. Right? What do you think are people going to feel when I say that on a Facebook Live? That I'll take that 70 pounds back today if I had to choose between what it's done for my husband and his mind and what it's done for my body. How do you think people are going to react to that? Think they're going to feel me? Right? That's the kind of stuff that moves people to action. Okay? So both. Do both. We don't have to choose. We get to do both, right? So now we're going to talk about compliance, because we have a lot of new people and we have people with some amazing stories. stories about diabetes, stories about brain seizures, stories about all kinds of words that if compliance was on here, like red alert, red alert, red alert, right? But there is a way to tell their story in a compliant way. So Wendy, I see you're very engaged in our call. So I'm going to have you unmute if you don't mind, my love. Okay. Did you unmute? Let me see. Okay, good. Okay, so first of all, can you tell everybody your non-compliant story? Just real briefly, your non-compliant, what happened to you and what ketones did for you?
Okay, so I had brain surgery when I was 31, and when I was 33, I had a seizure. So I was put on all kinds of medicine, and since that time, I've kind of checked out and not really been involved in life. So that's the short version.
Okay.
And did you want to know what Max did for it in non-compliant?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So for me, Max, a non-compliant, I would say it lit my brain up. Well, I kind of just say compliant now, I guess. But I do feel a whole lot better, and I don't have to worry about getting the right amount of sleep and getting a seizure again and things like that, since I'm not on medicine. That is something that we do always worry about with me.
So how do you tell the story about how ketones have helped your brain after having seizures and all this kind of stuff? How do you tell your story in a compliant way that casts a wide net?
Right. So I kind of tell people that I've been in a brain fog and kind of not really involved in life and not as energetic as I was before, that happened to me. So I just try to keep it general, and like everybody's got brain fog, right? So I try to keep it like they can all relate to me, that I don't have a lot of focus, like I'm like the squirrel going all over the place. I'm not like that anymore. So those are the kind of things I say that I think other people can relate to without going through my surgery and the seizures and all of that story.
Absolutely. So for me, thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. So for me, when I first started, it was, like I said, I had my thyroid removed. I was on high blood pressure medication. I was pre-diabetic. I had high cholesterol. I was on anxiety medication. All of those things Kate cannot say. All of those things are non-compliant. All of those things would be red alert, FTC or whoever it is, FCC, I don't know, come in and shut us down, all right? So I can't say those things. But you know what all of those things made me feel? They made me feel like I didn't have any energy. They made it where I couldn't sleep. My mood was awful. My focus was awful. And I was gaining weight very rapidly. Do you see how the non-compliant part of my story, I can take and twist it, not twist it, but flip it so that it's very general and it actually is all the benefits that are on the side of the box. You guys see what I'm saying? So if you have, like we have a lot of people on our team who have had inflammation-based diseases, things like that. I always get that. Like, how do I share this that it's helped with my inflammation? You can say things like, you used to be extremely puffy, that you used to have a lot of fluid in your body, and you don't have that anymore, that you are able to get up and move your body and you're not feeling exhausted all the time. You're not feeling like you're bloated anymore. All of those things, but you cannot use words like inflammation. Inflammation is a medical term. We can't use that. We definitely cannot use words like blood sugar, or we can't use words like PCOS or multiple sclerosis or any diseases. None of that. You can't use that. Now, if you are talking to someone in person, one of your friends, and you're telling your story in person, absolutely you can. But as far as social media, you can't put that out there because what can be misinterpreted will be misinterpreted. If someone can take a screenshot of your post and send it off to someone and say, look, they're making medical claims that ketones cure disease, then you just don't want to be the person who got Pruvit in trouble for doing something like that, right? I'm asked if you can use the word pain. You know, some people say you can, some people say you can't. That's probably a question to send into compliance@pruvithq.com if you can use the word pain. I would probably use the word discomfort. That's probably a more compliant word than pain. Pain can be technically used as a medical term. If you went to your doctor and was trying to explain to your doctor what was wrong with you, you would use the word pain. So that might not be a word that I would use. I would probably say discomfort. You know, that's, and if you're questioning this, here's a really, really good tool. Go watch the Inspire On videos. If you watch those Inspire On videos, like I just shared Miss Karen Holcomb's today, that lady lived in pain. Like she said that it hurt her when her grandchildren would try and hug her, that it hurt, okay? Those Inspire On videos are all told completely compliant. So go listen to those and you'll pick up different ways of how to tell your story in a compliant way. Does that make sense? But we just want to make sure that we are learning how to tell your story. If you're in doubt, leave it out. If in doubt, leave it out. Also, if you're on Facebook and you are talking about your blood sugar levels going down or your blood pressure levels going down, well, you know what? You just pushed a whole bunch of people away that don't have that problem. If Wendy went on Facebook and just talked about, oh my gosh, you guys, you know I've had this seizure, you know that it messed with my thyroid, and now like I feel amazing, I'm not having this problem and that problem, they're going to be like, awesome, Wendy, that's great. I don't have that problem. I don't need ketones. Do you see how she took like the wide net and she made it little tiny, right? So if you are very specific in your story like that, then you're not going to cast that wide net. Does that make sense, you guys? Like if I just talked about how I struggled with my thyroid for like 10 years and finally found something that's been able to get me over the edge and now like I don't have problems with that, everyone's gonna be like, oh, that's great, Kate, I'm so happy for you. But I don't have problems with my thyroid, so those ketones aren't really for me. Okay, do you guys get what I'm saying? If I'm a person who's had fibromyalgia or I have some kind of inflammation-based disease and that's what I talk about, people are going to say they're going to be really happy for me, but they're going to say, that's awesome, but I don't really have that problem, so I don't need ketones. Keep it very wide. Stick to the benefits on the side of the box. If you have fibromyalgia, what is something that disease keeps you from doing? Does it make you tired? Yeah, it does, right? Does it keep you from sleeping well? Yeah, it does. Does it bother your energy? Does it bother your focus? Yeah, all of those things. Talk about that stuff. Same thing, I have a girlfriend who has, and she's a prover as well. She has multiple sclerosis. She can't go and talk about multiple sclerosis, but what she can do is talk about the symptoms that multiple sclerosis gives her, which is having low energy and brain fog and not sleeping well and not being able to lose weight. She can talk about those things. She doesn't have to mention multiple sclerosis. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. And if you are in doubt and you're like, well, I really, really want to share my story. I had this amazing story. I had someone do this today. It was a lady who had PCOS and she was infertile and things are changing. All I'm going to say. Okay. And she didn't know how to tell her story. So she reached out and she's like, I know I need to keep this compliant. How do I tell my story? So if you're in doubt, reach out to someone else that can help you tell that story, okay? Then last thing I want to talk about is tweaking your story. First of the month, every month. Ask yourselves those questions. It's the first of the month. It's the 1st of December. Ask yourself those questions and answer them again. As you go along in this journey, 2 years in for me, you guys, your answers will start to change. My answers used to always be about the product. Now my answers are more about the community, more about the business. I'm attracting a whole nother group of people to me now, okay? So I still talk about how I feel, but I also talk about how I feel physically, but I also talk about how I feel from an emotional standpoint of being someone who at Christmas used to have to put everything on credit cards. And this Christmas, I didn't have to put one thing on a credit card. I was able to pay cash for every single Christmas gift this year. It's the first time this has ever happened in our family. Or I can talk about time. Thanks to Prove It, my husband is going to spend time with us between Thanksgiving and Christmas. If you are a photographer and live in photographer world, you know that doesn't happen. You don't see your family until after Christmas because you are working 18 to 20 hours a day. Wendy, is that the truth? That's the truth. We put up, I need to make a Facebook post about this. We put up Christmas lights outside and on the trees and stuff outside. We've never been able to do that before because Jason couldn't do that, right, John? Jason couldn't do that because he was never home this time of year. So we never put up Christmas lights outside because apparently I'm sexist and think only men can do that. So we never did. And this year, all 4 of us, the whole family was outside putting Christmas lights out. We were on ladders. We're doing it the first time ever. And that's because of Prove It. Prove It has given us that freedom of our life back to have time with each other. I know, right, Brent? Poor Jason. So that's how your story starts to tweak and change as you go along. Keep writing that story. Keep moving because people aren't going to want to hear your same story all the time. If you're not growing as a person, you're dying. So if you're telling the same story over and over again, you're not showing progress. You're not becoming that 1% better. Pay attention to the answers to your story and rewrite it every month. Pay attention to the little things. One of the best things for women this time of year is we start to put on our boots. Every woman who's ever been overweight knows that wearing boots is a hard thing. You got to buy the fat calf boots with the stretchy stuff in the back. When you are able to go from the fat calf boots to the regular boots, that's a big deal, people. So this time of year, you want to post about that, you know? Brent knows, like Brent has had to buy fat calf boots for a long time. And we've had these conversations in private and there's been a lot of tears and anguish. And he's really happy that he was able to buy some really nice regular size leather boots this year. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I hope this was helpful. I did record it because I think it's really important to teach our team the compliance way and also to teach our team how to teach their customers to tell the story. Number one, when you teach a customer how to tell their story, you're listening to them. You're asking them questions, you're listening. When you repeat their story back to them, they know that they've been heard and they're going to feel like you care about them. And if y'all don't get that this entire business is about the way we make people feel, you're missing it. You're missing it. This is exactly what it's all about. It is all about how we make people feel. So keep that in mind when you're asking your customers questions and you're engaging with your new promoters, okay? All right, awesome. Thank you, Melody. So that's all I have tonight. You guys have a great week. I know that everyone's crushing the reboot stuff. That's super exciting. I'm seeing numbers coming in like crazy. There's a lot of cash on the table. And I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.